Yeah. Okay, before we start, getting into the chapter in detail, let's do a little bit quick introduction of things you might already be knowing. Like, for example, what do you think are some special features, or what do you think living organisms in general are capable of doing? What all are the functions they do?
Respiration,
Okay, respiration. Sorry, I was not able to.
Locomotion,
Locomotion. Okay.
excretion,
Excretion.
reproduction,
Okay, reproduction.
transportation,
Transportation. Very good. Anything else?
digestion,
Digestion.
consumption of nutrients,
No, I did not get you. Sorry.
nutrients,
Okay,
consumption,
nutrition. ठीक है. Nutrition.
control over its body,
Control over its body. Correct. Okay, right. Control and coordination. Okay. Anything else?
growth,
Growth. Correct. Very good. I think you all have covered all the points. Great. Great. Right. So these are some of the characteristics of living organisms, or some things which living organisms are capable of doing. Right. We breathe. We are able to breathe. We are able to move. Locomotion and this might overlap a little bit. Like digestion and nutrition might overlap a little bit. Okay. Right. We are able to move from place to place. We are able to take in food. We are able to break it down, right? And then we are able to transport or move that food to whichever parts of the body and cells are required, right? Then we are able to grow and develop. Our cells are able to grow, divide, develop, etc., right? We are able to remove all the waste products, right? So yeah, these are some of the features or the characteristics of living organisms. Same thing is there in this chart. Same thing, right? Growth, reproduction, respiration, respond to changes. This is control and coordination. Movement would be another term for locomotion. Need air, food, water, right, etc. So this is just in general that in living organisms, what all are the processes which occur. Okay. Now what we are going to do is, from this we are going to segregate, or we are going to come out with a list of processes which are absolutely essential for survival. Can you tell me out of these which process? Respiration. Okay.
respiration,
digestion,
Digestion. Okay.
excretion,
Excretion. Correct.
reproduction,
Okay. Reproduction. I am going to write it here. Okay. I'll come back to this. Anything else?
nutrition,
Okay. Nutrition. I would club nutrition and digestion together, right? They're overlapping a little bit. Okay. What about, okay, then let us go like this. Locomotion, absolutely essential. What do you think? Would we die if we can't move, or would we still survive?
we would still survive.
Survive, right? Yeah. Not absolutely essential. Okay. Excretion essential. Yeah, we covered this, covered this. Transportation.
Transportation, blood is essential.
Okay. So would you classify it as an essential life process?
Yes.
We basically, if there's no transportation, we would die, right? The question is that. So which among these, if absent, we will die? That's all our questions. Right? So transportation, yes. Digestion, nutrition covered. Control and coordination. Essential?
Now, if transportation is there, would we really die?
Yes, yes,
If
of
blood
course.
doesn't reach all parts of our body, then we would die.
See, transportation may everything is covered, not just blood, oxygen. Oxygen from your nose till it reaches the lungs, that also is a part of transportation. Food moving from your mouth to your intestines to finally reaching the cells, that also is a part of transportation. Right? Then blood also is part of transportation. Movement of excretory waste from your cells till the kidneys, that also becomes transportation. From kidneys to outside, it falls under excretion, right? Okay, so
Yes, I thought locomotion and transportation were the same.
acha, you got confused that. No. Transportation here refers to movement of materials in the body, basically. Movement of, you could say, materials or raw materials, biological substances in your body. Or let me call it circulation. Will that help? Circulation. Okay. Right, yeah. So you have given a correct list of life processes or absolutely essential processes which are required. So without these, we will definitely die. Okay, coming back to reproduction, which I had written down at this side. Okay, now my question to you is, if we do not reproduce, will we die? What do you think? No. Okay, two of them nodded their heads saying no. Okay, others?
It will be no.
No. Okay. Okay. Right. So as you're correctly answered, if we do not reproduce, we don't really die. So this becomes a secondary life process. Why do I say it is a secondary life process? Is we require this to continue our species. Right? If reproduction is not there, our species will die. We will not die, but our line or lineage or whatever you would like to call it, the species would die. There will be no continuity of the species. So species would end up dying, right? So why does reproduction not fall under essential life processes is because what happens is the body first utilizes all its energy, all its resources, everything in making sure that these are done. Okay. And in ensuring growth, very important, right? Once the cells have reached the correct amount of growth or what is called as maturity, then what the body does it relocates or reallocates all these resources to reproduction. Once it knows that okay, I am healthy, I am fit, I have reached a certain amount of growth, everything, the circumstances are suitable for continuing our race or continuing our species, then it is going to divert all the resources for reproduction, right? Okay, that's why reproduction does not become a life process, it becomes a secondary life process. It's not essential for an individual survival. Okay, we will discuss more about this in reproduction chapter, so I'll leave it at that here. When we do how do organisms reproduce, we'll talk a little bit more about why it was not included here and why is it a secondary life process. Okay, right. So yeah. Yes, what are life processes? These are our four main life processes, mainly nutrition, transportation, respiration, excretion. Okay, which we'll be discussing in this chapter in detail. Okay. Okay. I want you to take down this from here. This is our introduction. You can take down just this flow chart. Okay. Okay, I'm going to just this flow chart if you could. Okay, along with this analogy I'm going to give you here of a car. Okay, if you can just write this in a simple way, no need to draw or make it very aesthetic, but just as long as you get the point across, just make it a simple flow chart. Yeah. And
And
I'll
we
give
don't have to write the points in blanks.
no, you don't need to write these points. These are just a basic introduction as to what is life process, right? You can skip this. This flowchart covers it. Okay. Okay, so I'll give you an example which I just struck me some time back. Yeah, I Was very pleased with myself that I came up with that example. Hopefully you also relate to it. Okay. We can think about these life processes by imagining, or by looking at a car. Where is brown car? Okay, taking an example of a car. Okay. And we have, let's say this is our engine. Okay. And I'm going to have whatever wheels and fuel tank, very important, and exhaust. Okay, so this is our daily life example or real world example, which you can compare this flow chart with, so that it makes it easier to understand. Okay, so what are life processes is basically anything which keeps you alive, which is the processes which keep you alive, which prevent you from dying, those processes. And what are those four main processes is, we start with nutrition, right? Nutrition may, what all happens is, you get fuel and raw materials, right? Raw materials would be in the case that you prepare your own food, like in case of green plants, you need raw materials or you get raw materials, right? So for that reason, raw materials has been included here. In case of animals, we directly get our fuel. We don't need raw materials to make fuel. Same thing in case of car. If you were to relate this with a car, your fuel tank would be the first one, right? Only when you put petrol or diesel in the fuel tank can you move your car, right? You can't just be like, you go to a car dealership and just be like, okay, I want this car, it should start moving automatically. No, you need to put some fuel in it, right? So that becomes your step number one. Then step number two is distribute stuff, or basically you can, this is what is called as transportation, right? So here transportation refers to movement of raw materials or your movement of biological substances, not your movement of vehicles or moving from one place to another. That, not that meaning, is the meaning of movement of biosubstances. So here in this car, the transportation would be the fuel reaching the engine, or traveling through whatever pipes and going to the engine. That becomes transportation, right? Second thing is you burn fuel. Okay, burn fuel basically means whatever fuel you've taken in, you need to break it down. Whatever food you have eaten, okay, suppose you had a lovely heavy lunch today, right? Now your body is sitting and breaking it down into substances which the cells can absorb or take in, or utilize it, right? It's not that you eat one complete full meal and as it is the cells are also getting, let's say you have had chapati and some gravy and things like that, dal rice. Your cell is not going to get dal rice chapati to eat. The cell is going to get it in a simple version or a simplified form. So that entire procedure of burning the fuel or breaking it down into simpler substances is what is called as respiration. Okay. So this becomes 3. Transportation is 2. This is 3. And this happens here. So what is the 3 here in burning fuel is, in the engine, the fuel is burnt so that your car can move. Right. So in the car, this has become point number 3. And last part is throw waste. Whatever your body has not used from that fuel, whatever was extra, whatever, it can't be broken down or it can't make any use of it, it's going to throw it away. Or basically, this is excretion. Right? And the car, it would be your exhaust giving off all those, smoky, dirty dust kind of fumes. Why? Because that part of the fuel it was not able to utilize, not required. Correct. So this is how you can relate this and this together, so that you are crystal clear with what are the life processes and why are there only 4. Okay, why are there only 4, and what is their main order? Once you've understood this part, once it is clear in your head, or once you've understood what is nutrition, what is transportation in simple words, then whenever I talk about anything in detail, like if I tell you I'm talking about getting raw materials, then automatically you will know, okay, I'm talking about nutrition. right? You don't have to really memorize that, okay, transportation means movement of only this and this from here to here, not like that. Right? You will know, okay, transportation means everything. How oxygen is coming in, how carbon dioxide is going out, how we are getting our water, how we are getting our food, how is food moving from the intestines to the cells, etc. Everything, right? Okay, so for that reason, this flow chart is important. Okay. Okay. Have you taken it down? Have you taken down the flow chart?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Okay, okay, I'll wait. Sorry. Yeah. Done? Okay. Right. So now we have the first part, which is nutrition. Right. Not be of any help, but the PPT is designed in such a way that, when you're reading just before your exams, it should be like a quick revision kind of thing. So yeah, we'll focus on this part right now, and then we'll come to this in the next few slides, right? So just no need to take down this flowchart right now. I'll tell you what to take down. Okay. Okay. You can take this down, this point. Right. So basically, what is nutrition? This is the definition which is given here. It is the process of intake of nutrients. So here, nutrients equals to fuel, right? Basically, substances which give you energy are what are your nutrients. Some examples are like carbs, fats, proteins, etc. Right? Okay. And utilization by the organism in various activities. So basically, you need food to carry out all other functions because that is what is giving you energy, right? And the requirement of energy is fulfilled in different way in both the autotrophs and heterotrophs. Again, we'll discuss this in detail. Everything is there in detail in the coming slides. Right. So once you've taken this point down, let me know. We'll go ahead.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, fungi is included in saprophytic, which means it feeds on dead bodies' nutrients, right?
Yes, correct.
Ma'am, but sometimes on the skin, people also get fungal infections. So can that be counted as parasitic?
Not exactly, because even on your skin, it would be feeding on all the dead and decaying skins, right? So when exactly do you get a fungal infection is actually when, you've left that region damp, or, you've left it. Usually you get it between your toes or between your fingers. And in those kind of areas, water tends to collect, or, there is some dirt and debris which tend to collect and ferment or decay. So even when you get fungal infections on your skin, it's basically feeding on all those dead and decaying matter itself. It's not exactly a parasite.
So, ma'am, it doesn't enter the skin of ours, right?
Yeah, no. It does not enter your skin. It does not act as a parasite. It still feeds on whatever dead and decaying matter is there around.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll discuss in detail about saprophytic and parasitic in the coming slides. Okay, we'll discuss. Okay.
I'm done.
Done? Okay. Others done?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Right. Very first thing we'll talk about is autotrophic nutrition. See, now whenever you get words like these, no, now you are going to come across a lot of technical terms, or words which are going to have, which may not sound exactly simple, or I don't know how to put it across, but yeah, terrifying words like these are what you're going to come across continuously in bio from now on. So a simple practice, which would go a long way would be to break down the word so that you can make sense out of it. Like for example, break down the word autotrophic. If I keep telling you autotrophic, after 2-3 times you will zone out and you will think that, what is autotroph? What am I talking about? You will stop relating. But if I tell you auto means self and troph means food, and I tell you autotroph is basically any organism which makes its own food, then now every time I tell you autotroph, it is registered in your head that organism which makes its own food, right? So make a practice of breaking down words wherever possible. So whenever we will come across new words, I have done that job. But when you come across words on your own, or you found them, try to do the same thing. I would advise that, because that goes a long way in remembering these new words that you learn, right? Okay. So same thing, autotrophs basically refers to organisms which can make their own food, right? Self would be make their own food. Okay. Why do I say organisms? Is because it's not restricted to only green plants. Okay. There are some organisms like algae. There are some other unicellular organisms also which can make their own food. It's not just green plants. So that's why organisms which make their own food. Now there are different ways of making their own food. Okay, two of the common methods are basically what are given here, which is photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs. So you can take down this, what is the meaning of auto and troph, and now you can take down whatever I'll tell you for these two, right? You can take this down also, and whatever I tell you for, yeah, then let me just, okay. Photoautotrophs, again split this word. You already know auto means self, right? And you know troph means food, correct? You just need to find out the meaning of the word photo. Okay, photo basically refers to light. So from where am I getting these meanings is that whenever you look at words, they have something which are called as root words. These root words are basically of Greek or Latin origin. Okay, and why are they important is because whenever you see another word with a part of this or with the same word again in it, 99% of the time it will have the same meaning. For example, I tell you photography, or I tell you photosynthesis. Again, another word which we are going to come across in this chapter, right? I tell you photolytic. Okay. In all these words, photo has the same meaning, which is light. Okay. So this is how this will help you remember or, understand words better. Okay. Everywhere photo means light itself. So photoautotrophs are basically organisms. Okay. I'll write it here. Organisms which make their own food using light. Okay, those are what are called as photoautotrophs. And now a classic example of photoautotrophs are all green plants. Any green plant you can think of, you can write as your example. It can be spinach, cabbage, anything you eat, any flowers you see, hibiscus, rose, any plant, banyan tree, people tree, anything, any green plant you can write as your example here. All of them are photoautotrophs. Yes, Tia.
Ma'am, phototrophs are the organism which make their own food using light, right?
Yes. They make their own food using light. Yes, I've written it here on the screen. So you can take this down. Huh? This would be the definition of photoautotrophs, right? You can take down the breakdown of the word as well. Like photo is light, auto is self, and troph is food. And example. This is just for your understanding. This is not really required these words, but this is for your understanding. Right. Okay. Similarly, we have right. We can take the example of chemoautotrophs also. Now, chemoautotrophs, you all can help me. Okay, I will try to. Okay, you can answer this one for me. We'll break it again into 3 words. Can you guess what chemo would stand for? Chem. Okay, let us not even.
Chemicals?
Very good. Excellent. Right. Chemicals. Correct. So chemo also stands for the same thing. Chemo is basically chemicals. And we know auto is self, and we know troph is food. So now can you tell me the definition of what a chemoautotrophs would be?
Organisms which make their own food using chemicals.
Excellent, excellent. Very good. Right, same thing. So whatever I have written here, till this part is the same for chemoautotrophs as well, right? But only thing, instead of using light, I would say using chemicals. Correct. You can write it here. Organisms which make their own food using chemicals. Right. Popular words which have a chem in them are chemistry. Right. It's the study of chemicals only, isn't it? So now that you know what is chem, whenever you see chem somewhere, you will know it is something to do with chemicals. Right. What other word can I think of? Okay, I can't really think of any. Yeah, one more is chemotherapy. Okay, it's kind of a treatment for cancer, right? Where they use chemicals to get rid of those tumors, cells. Right, again, here also chem stands for chemical itself. So like that, now if you keep seeing the word, so make this a practice whenever you're learning new words or new things. You keep trying to find this kind of meaning in it. Don't do it for very small words. Now, words like food or, light, don't try to break those down. Right, then you will get into a spiral. But big words or new technical terms like these, you can always try to break down and make it easy to remember. Now see, you don't even need to remember these definitions as long as you know meaning of autotrophs and chemo and photo, right? You reduce the number of things you need to remember. Okay, so yeah, these are our 2 kinds of autotrophs, which right now you need to know. Of course, there are more. There are organisms which can make food using different other things as well, right? Some use, just water. Some use chemicals. Some use light. Some use things like that. So there are a lot of them. But for now, you can remember these 2. Okay. And in example here, you have nitrifying bacteria. Does anybody know what are nitrifying bacteria? Have you heard of it?
They're present in the soil or something.
Correct. Yes, they're present in the soil. Absolutely correct. Okay, I'll tell you what they are. Right, suppose this is your plant. This is soil. Sorry, this is root and this is soil. Right. And you have air here. As you already know, there are mixture of gases in the air. Right. Some of them include O2, N2, CO2. Right. The maximum percentage composition in air is for nitrogen, right? Followed by oxygen and then all the other gases. So these are some of the gases which are present in the air. Okay. Now what happens is plant requires CO2 and N2 to perform its activities, its daily whatever activities or photosynthesis and transport and things like that. It requires these gases. So carbon dioxide it can take in through the pores, which we'll study about in 2-3 more slides, right? So carbon dioxide it can take in through the pores. What happens is in case of nitrogen, it is not able to take in N2 as it is. It's not able to take in from its roots, from its pores. Okay, it's not able. So there are these bacteria in the soil. Okay, they are present in the soil. What they do is they break down this N2 into a form which can be taken up by the plants. So now the plants can take up that N2 and then can go ahead and perform whatever activities it had to carry out. So those bacteria which break down this N2 into a suitable form for uptake by plants are called nitrifying bacteria. I don't know, you might have done this in EVS. Probably you would study all about this in what is called a nitrogen cycle. Basically, it talks about this only, how nitrogen is changed into different forms so that animals and plants can take it up. Okay, so this is nitrifying bacteria. This again, this is for your understanding. You can draw this picture if you want to understand what is nitrifying bacteria. If you got the picture, well and good. I mean, not required. All this is not required. Whatever I marked in star is required. Okay, wherever I need you to take down things, I'll put a star or I'll put a tick mark somewhere. Okay.
Ma'am, so from ammonia and like in the nitrogen cycle, from the ammonia to the bacteria taking the nitrogenous gas, that is the chemical process that forms chemoautotrophs, right?
No. That is not the chemical process that forms chemoautotrophs. That is one of the process which the chemoautotrophs do. That's their job, like what they do.
Yes, ma'am, like the bacteria, they synthesize themselves from the nitrogen.
No. They don't synthesize themselves. They don't make new bacteria using that. What they do is they break down that nitrogen which is present. And in that way, by breaking down that nitrogen, they get their food. So that's how it helps them. Did I make any sense or?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let me know once you all have taken this down. We'll go ahead.
The nitrogen process is called nitrogen fixation, right, ma'am?
Yeah, nitrogen fixation is one part of the nitrogen cycle. So yeah, you have a lot of steps. One is called nitrification, then there is denitrification, nitrogen fixation. All those are sub steps in the nitrogen cycle. Yes.
Can I say these bacteria help in nitrogen fixation for the plants?
Yeah, you can say that. Yes. Yes,
Ma'am, the
somebody.
bacteria
Tell
in
me.
the soil, ma'am, the bacteria and fungi present in the soil convert nitrogen into nitrogen ions, and then this ammonification causes the conversion of NH4 into NO2 to NO3, and that is what bacteria do, and this is how they make food for themselves, right? If
Yes,
I'm
correct.
not
Correct. Yes. So by breaking this down, they get their food also, and then they help the plant taking it up. Correct. Though I'm not
so, ma'am,
sure whether they are converting which form of nitrogen to which form, that I'll have to check and tell you. Okay. Whether they are converting N2 to NO2 or whether they are converting N2 to NH3 is something I have also forgotten. I will check this and I'll tell you which form they're converting. I'll let you.
ma'am, the plants absorb the NO3, like I mean, whatever it is called, they absorb the nitric compounds and they use it for themselves. But that is photoautotrophs. But what the before that, all the process of breaking it down is by what bacteria attain food, right?
Yes, correct. So see, photoautotrophs mein nitrogen is not required. It's like for us, we don't consume nitrogen, phosphorus, we don't consume minerals, right? But in our food, it already comes as a part of whatever you're eating. You are already taking in some amount of minerals and vitamins and things like that, right? Same thing for plants. The plant does not really require nitrogen to perform photosynthesis, but it requires it to perform some side activities or some activities leading to photosynthesis. So it does require some amount of minerals and water and things like that, which the nitrifying bacteria help it to take it up like that. Okay. Okay, have you taken this down? Shall we go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, now we'll see more about autotrophic nutrition in plants, right? Basically, autotrophic nutrition, like we discussed, is where you are converting inorganic materials like carbon dioxide and water into carbohydrate in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. So this is the definition for photosynthesis. You can take it down. Definition, right? Photosynthesis, yeah, right. Again, you can break down the word photo and synthesis. Photo is light, as we discussed. Synthesis basically refers to making, to make something, right? So here you are making food. So I'll write food here. So photosynthesis refers to the process of making food using light. That's exactly what the word breaks down into. But the definition is it needs raw materials and then it converts it into carbohydrates in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Right. Another important point is the carbohydrates which are not used immediately are stored in the form of starch, which serves as an internal energy reserve. Can you give me any example of starchy vegetables?
Tapioca and potato.
Potatoes.
Okay, great.
Ma'am, sweet
Tapioca, yeah.
potato.
Sweet potato, excellent. Yeah, tapioca is also full of starch, correct. Sweet potato, potato, very good. All these are rich in starch, right? So the next time you eat potato, you should remember what are rich in starch, okay, which means the plant made the food and the excess food it stored it here, which now I am eating. You can think it like that. Okay. Right. So when we talk about starch here, there is one another point which is relating to your, I would say, experiment part, which also I wanted to cover. So can anybody tell me which test is done to identify starch? Do you know? Have you heard? Iodine. Excellent.
Iodine.
How do you identify starch? Correct. This is also important. Take this down. You can take this down also. Not asked, but general knowledge. Let it be. Right. One or two examples is good enough. Okay. How do you identify starch? You perform the iodine test. Right. And
Is it like the red litmus paper and the blue litmus paper?
no. So litmus paper is used to identify the pH. pH is basically how acidic or how basic a substance is. So that won't be useful here. Okay. Right. So you have a positive result, which means starch is present. Okay. That's what a positive result means. Okay. When do you get a positive result or when do you conclude starch is present? And when you see blue black color, right? And you have negative result, no starch, get brown color. So what they do basically is whatever you want to test, you can test anything for starch. You can take some leaf extract also and test. You can take sweet potato itself and test. Right? Maybe if they would have done it in your lab, they might have taken sweet potato only and they would have checked it because they want to show you the positive result, how it looks like, right? So usually they take potato, they'll cut it in half, then they'll put 2-3 drops of iodine. Iodine is, there's liquid iodine present in labs, right? Like a reagent. They'll put 2-3 drops of liquid iodine, and if the color turns blue black, that means starch is present. If it turns brown or basically does not turn blue black, means no starch is present. Sometimes it doesn't turn exactly brown. Sometimes it turns into some vague color. So that also, yeah. But in theory, or if you're supposed to write what color do you see if there is no starch, you should write brown. Okay. This question is important because when you start solving questions from this chapter, right, you will come across one leaf question with that. There's only that one question which keeps roaming around for years. I don't know why, but yeah, there's this one leaf question where what they do is they're basically testing conditions for photosynthesis. Like they'll not provide one part of the leaf with water, then one part of the leaf they'll not give carbon dioxide, and then one part it will have everything, all conditions will be met, and then you have to put iodine in all three sections and check. So only the part where all the raw materials for photosynthesis have been provided, only that part will turn blue black color, right? All the rest of the portion will turn brown. So this one question you will always keep getting, which is why you need to know this information, right? Yeah, don't worry. When we start doing questions, I'll only tell you this about this question. But yeah, for now, this information is sufficient. Right. Okay. Let me know once you have taken it down, so we'll go ahead.
I'm done.
Done? Okay. Done? Everybody done?
Ma'am, just a minute.
Okay. Done, right? I'll go to the next slide. Right. Now we'll talk about photosynthesis. Okay.
Ma'am,
Now,
is it possible just to go 1 minute to the
yes, yes, yes. Why not? 1 second. Huh? Yeah. Oh, you wanted what I'd written also? I can get that back.
Yeah, ma'am, the written. Yes, ma'am, you can check.
Done? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll talk about photosynthesis in a little bit detail. Okay, yeah. What I was saying was, what I want you to do is wherever you're making notes, right? Suppose this is your page and you're writing notes here, then make a small box on the right. Wherever you're making this photosynthesis note, no? Make one small box there and write whatever I'm going to write here. This is going to be a list of questions on photosynthesis. So whenever you revise, you should cover these 5 to 6 questions, whatever I'm writing here. And once you have covered you know the answers to those 6 questions, which means your revision is done for photosynthesis, like that. Okay. So just write it on the right side, or if you're using the left page, then write it on the left side, wherever. Got my point, right? Just write it on the side. Okay, these are just basic questions because the information is all given it's not given in a proper flow. I just wanted to make sure that you know what all questions are there. Okay, make a box and write this. Okay, yeah, the questions are as follows. First thing you need to know is, where does photosynthesis occur? Okay, or you can also call it site of photosynthesis. Second question is, raw materials required. Third would be, okay, am I forgetting something? Third would be products. Products form. Okay. Equation. Fifth is steps. Okay. So when you cover all these 5 questions, when you know the answer to these 5 questions, you have covered the photosynthesis part. There's no diagram as such for photosynthesis. So yeah, this is what all you need to know. You need to know where photosynthesis occurs, where is the site, what are the different raw materials required, what are the different end products formed, what is the equation of photosynthesis, and what are the steps of photosynthesis. The answers to all of these are there in this slide and in the next slide. So I'll tell you wherever we are getting these. But this is just for your note when you are reading, that you should know the answers to these questions. Right. So first thing, the site is given here, right? Site is chloroplast in the green leaves. Correct? Where chloroplast is the organelle which contains the chlorophyll pigment, the green color pigment. Right? Which we would have done in grade 9. We had learnt about organelles, cell organelles, where chloroplast was this, green thing with coin-like stacks inside. Okay, this is your chloroplast. So each of these stacks has chlorophyll pigment in it. Okay, so this is where photosynthesis occurs, right? So now this diagram here is important for you to understand where chloroplast is present in the leaf. So till now, all these years, whenever people asked or whenever you were asked a question, where does photosynthesis occur? Your response would be leaf, right? But from now on, it should be chloroplast in the leaf. We have become a little bit more detail oriented, wherein we are telling you the exact location. It does not happen throughout the leaf. It happens only in chloroplasts, which are present just below the upper surface in the leaf, right? This is usually asked for labeling. No need to draw it right now, and it's there in your NCERT book. So you need to know where chloroplast is. So this is your first layer. Okay, what happened? Yeah. This is your first layer of the cell, which is usually the upper epidermis, and chloroplast is present just below the first layer, right? So it is just below the tip of the leaf. Then there are other cells and air spaces, and then you have finally the bottom side or the underside of the leaf, right? Write it here, underside of the leaf, where you have your guard cells and the stomata. Again, we'll be discussing everything in detail. We'll come to it, right? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I also have one small video to show you where this entire part is given visualized, right? So you'll know where exactly what is and what are we talking about, where chloroplast is in the leaf, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now that we know about chloroplast and we know that it occurs in green leaves, I have a couple of questions for you, right? You can answer this, even if it's wrong, it's fine. Just try to answer, right? Okay. First question is, do you think photosynthesis occurs in stems? Stems are also green in color, no? Do you think photosynthesis occurs in stems?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Srijak says no. Okay, what about the others? No. Okay.
No.
No. Okay.
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay. Oh, everybody
No,
says
ma'am.
okay. Anybody who says yes? Anybody who feels yes, it does occur in stems? No. Acha, let me change my question then. What do you think happens in desert plants? In cactus?
Ma'am, the roots of the cactus plants are sunk deep in the ground, so they absorb the water. Even if there's a little bit water available, they absorb the water.
Okay, they
The
absorb
roots.
the water. Okay. Okay, but what about photosynthesis?
It would be yes then.
Yeah, it would be yes.
In the case of cactus, what happens is that since the desert temperature is too high, it opens the stomata during the night time. Since
Correct.
it opens it during the night time, they are able to take in the carbon dioxide, and during day they use the same carbon dioxide for photosynthesis.
Huh. So yeah, basically my question was they perform photosynthesis, right? Okay. Right. So now I think you all changed your answer. Okay. Right. So what happens in desert plants is that they don't have leaves, correct? Like you all said correctly. Like, sorry, I didn't get his name. It is Srijak, right? Srijak, yeah. Yeah. So like Srijak and Parvati said correctly, desert plants don't really have leaves to minimize the water loss. So what do they have instead is these kind of stem modifications, which are known as spikes or spines, whatever they are called. They're called either spikes or spines, whichever you would like to call them. They have these kind of thorns, right? So they are the stem modification or leaf modifications which are there. So in desert plants, there are no leaves, but photosynthesis does occur, right? So your answer would be yes, photosynthesis occurs in stem. And then you would add the conditions here. What would be your conditions? You will say yes in desert plants. Right? Or in plants with leaf modifications. Correct? Basically, wherever the plant does not really have a proper leaf, but it has anything else instead of a leaf, that plant will also photosynthesize. It's not going to be that it's going to be like, okay, I don't have leaves, somebody please send food to me. Right? It's going to perform photosynthesis. Yes, Mike, tell me.
So any plant stem can perform photosynthesis, right? Even if they don't have a leaf modification.
No. Stem, no, I meant the plant. Stem would be when there are leaf modifications. And in general, stems do perform photosynthesis, but it's like very minute amount. I would say less than 5%. Right? Yeah. They don't really contribute that much. They do perform, but their main role would be in transport. So they contribute very little to photosynthesis. Okay, and my second question is, so yeah, yes, when plants have modifications, that time it occurs in stems. Major amount would occur in stems. Second question is, what do you think happens with leaves which are not green in color? Will they perform photosynthesis? Like for example, they are red. There are leaves which are red, right? There are leaves which are green and white. There are plants with yellow leaves also. Oh, I'm writing leaves only. Green and white, yellow. So what do you think happens here?
Chlorophyll is a green
Photosynthesis.
pigment, right?
Yes, chlorophyll is a green pigment. Yes. Yes, Parvati, tell me.
Chlorophyll is acting. Chlorophyll and sunlight is acting as a helper for photosynthesis to happen. So if the chlorophyll is not there in these leaves, I think so it will be there in these leaves. It's just that the amount will be less compared to those of the green leaves.
Very good, very good. I think first your answer was going somewhere else, and then you came to the right answer. Right. Yeah, so correct. So what happens is chlorophyll is absolutely required. It's not acting like a helper. So only because chlorophyll is present are they able to actually perform photosynthesis. Why that happens is because you learn about it in detail, but in brief, if I were to tell you, it's basically light has different wavelengths, right? Like you might study in physics or you'll come across it. We have visible light, we have microwaves, radio waves, UV rays, and or different wavelengths of light. So what chlorophyll does is chlorophyll is able to capture the correct wavelength of light which is required to perform photosynthesis. Okay, without chlorophyll, that wavelength of light you will not be able to capture. So definitely it is required. It is a very necessary pigment to perform photosynthesis. So what happens in leaves which are not green in color is that, like Parvati rightly said, other pigments are present. Like if it is red or yellow, you will have carotenoids in that, right? If it's green and white, you'll have a mixture of chlorophyll and some other pigments. Chlorophyll is present, right? But is masked by other pigments. Masked basically means is that the color of the other pigment will be brighter or will be more than green. Like again, you will learn about this in physics, why some colors are visible from far also and why some are not. Things like that. Whenever you talk about science, all of the three are interlinked in some way or the other. You can't leave out physics and chemistry from bio and things like that. They are all just interconnected some way or the other, right? So again, you learn that why chlorophyll gets masked or why green would get masked if there's red and other colors present, right? So it's masked by other pigments, but okay, but it is there. So yes, photosynthesis occurs. Okay, let me write it completely. But since okay, this is your answer. Okay. So yes, even though leaves are not green in color, photosynthesis will occur, right? So there are two different situations. This situation, what I'm talking about, is plants who who have naturally green, red, or yellow, white, or yellow leaves. Okay, not plants which were green originally, but because of some disease or lack of some nutrients, they have turned yellow. So those leaves are on the verge of dying, or they are undergoing necrosis and they'll be killed or they will be dead in some time. I'm not talking about those leaves which turn yellow. I'm talking about plants which had yellow leaves originally itself. Okay, so remember that. Right. So please take down these questions as well. They are sometimes they are asked as application based question, not very frequently. Sometimes somewhere they might just throw in one question saying that okay, we have this leaf, will photosynthesis occur or not? So that time you must know. Okay. Have you taken this down? Shall we go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
1 minute, last line.
Yes, yes, sure, I'll wait.
Done, ma'am.
Done? Okay, let us go ahead. Right. So yeah, the next question in our question list was raw materials, right? Since it's not given specifically here, I'll write it. Right. Raw materials required would be CO2, water, and sunlight. Right? These are our three raw materials. And end products formed, I'll write it here. End products are glucose, Glucose, you can put sugar in the bracket, right? Glucose is a type of sugar. There are a lot of different sugar molecules. There's glucose, galactose, lactose, fructose, so many other, right? Sometime later you will learn in chemistry. Yeah, but for now you just need to remember glucose. It's a type of sugar, and end product is oxygen. Main, right? Yeah. So yeah, see here you will find that other essential materials like nitrogen, phosphorus, these are also required. So they also play some amount of role. Like when we have our food is mainly constituted of carbs, proteins, fats, right? But invariably we also need some amount of minerals and vitamins in very minute quantities, but we do require it, right? Same for the plants. Even though they are producing their own food, they do require minerals and vitamins and some compounds like some of these: nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, magnesium. Yeah, so this is our raw materials, this is our end product. Then the next part of our question was the equation. So you can take this down also, take this down, take this down, take this down, right? This diagram is just for you to understand from where the raw materials are coming in. Like carbon dioxide will come in from the air, like it's written here, from air. Water will be taken up from the roots, right? From the soil, it will be taken up from the roots. Then via the xylem, it will pass through the different parts of the plant and it will reach the leaves. So water from soil. Chlorophyll is already present in the chloroplast. Yeah, we can add chlorophyll also here as our raw material, right? Because chloroplast becomes your site of photosynthesis, but chlorophyll becomes the raw material. So in absence of one of these also, right? What does raw material mean? Means if even one of this is absent, you will not be able to perform photosynthesis and you will not get glucose and oxygen. Say for example, you're making, I don't know, I can think of making cookies or a cake, right? When you're baking a cake or you're making some cookies, you need a list of ingredients, right? Even if one ingredient is missing from that, now we have a lot of alternatives, but usually if you want to follow to the recipe, or you want to get the exact recipe, you want to duplicate something, you need to follow, or you need to have all the exact raw materials or ingredients they have mentioned, right? Only then you will get that perfect cookie or the perfect cake, whichever they have been saying. Same thing for plants. If one of them is also missing, then there will be no glucose, there will be no food, there will be no oxygen, right? Okay. Yeah. Then comes the equation. This is what is called a balanced equation. You might have done in your first chemistry chapter, right? You must be learning how to balance equations. So basically elements on the left side of the equation and elements on the right side of the equation need to be the same. Elements means each of these symbols like C, H, O, these are our elements, right? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Here there are only 3. So everything needs to be balanced, which means if there is 6C on the left, there should be 6C on the right as well. If there is, how many oxygen are there? 12. 12 and 6, 18. There should be 18 this side as well, right? 12 and 6, 18. Similarly for hydrogen, if you calculate, you get the same amount on the LHS and RHS. That's what a balanced equation means, right? Yeah, one thing I wanted to tell you about the equation here is if you check Google, like if you Google the equation, you might see this also somewhere. Okay. If you come across this equation anywhere, don't worry or don't think it is wrong. It is correct. Okay. Both these equations are correct. You can write either of these. What happens actually is photosynthesis is not a direct one-step process. There are a lot of reactions which occur to finally give you glucose. So in that lot of reactions which are occurring, one point you are breaking down water to get some products for the intermediate reaction, and then in some reaction water is formed back again, right? So that water again is given off to either the different parts of the leaves and the plants, or it is given out through the stomata. Depends on what use that water has. But yeah, you do get some amount of water as your end product. But at this point, we don't want to confuse you by saying water is raw material and an end product. So we stick, or basically they give you this equation only to remember, the first one, right? So that you don't get confused that how is water acting as a raw material also and as a product also, right? But yeah, if you come across this equation anywhere, don't worry, it is correct, right? There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. Right. So I think from our list of questions, we've covered all except the steps for photosynthesis, which is there in the next slide. Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Have you taken this down?
Ma'am,
Yes.
could you explain end products again?
Sure. Okay. So end products are basically what is formed once photosynthesis occurs. Right. So once the leaf has carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, and chlorophyll, it is going to perform a set of reactions. Like you can think of something like magic is going to happen inside the leaf, right? Because at this stage, you don't need to know the so many reactions which occur inside. So some magic happens inside the leaf, right? And then you will end up with glucose and oxygen. So whatever is formed after a reaction is basically called the end products. Whatever is usually, this is the convention, whatever is there on the left side of an equation is called raw materials, and whatever is there on the right side is called the end products. Okay, sometimes they call oxygen as a byproduct also. Okay, oxygen, they call it as a this is what is written, not tata bye bye, it's just byproduct. Okay, what does byproduct means is something which is formed when you were trying to make something else. For example, what can I tell you? I can't think of. Okay, I can't think of anything right now. Any example?
Ma'am, is it like glucose is the primary product we are asking for, and along with that we are getting oxygen, so it is like byproduct?
Yes, correct. Yes, that's exactly what happens. Correct. So glucose is the main thing we are looking for, right? For example, when you are baking or you're making some dish in the kitchen, something you are making in the kitchen, and then some additional thing you could make from it or as well, that becomes like a byproduct. Can't really think of any example. Okay, leave it. Correct. Sometimes it is called as byproduct. Usually both are called as the end products. Right. So both are correct. Everything here is correct. Okay. Is it clear now, Kristen?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have one doubt.
Tell me, Parvati.
Both the equations will be taken as balanced equations, or only the first one will be taken as balanced?
No, both are balanced. No, both are balanced.
Okay.
See what happens in the second one now, because there is 12 O2, 12 H2O here and 6 H2O here. What you can do is you can cancel out the 6 here and you can cancel this entire thing here. So you end up with this equation only eventually. These are also some laws of balancing only you learn when you complete the first chapter, right? So eventually you end up with one equation only, but the only thing is to avoid confusion, or to avoid confusion in your head that why there is water on both sides of the equation, we give you the first one. Both are balanced, both are correct.
Okay.
Okay, yes, Tia, tell me question.
Ma'am, should we draw that picture?
No, not required. Now just to explain from where what materials are coming, like from where are you getting water, where are you getting sunlight, carbon dioxide, things like that, just for understanding, not required. Okay, have you all taken the equations down? Shall we go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Now we have our last question to answer, and then I'll show you this video. Then I think your visualization will be clear as to what happens exactly in the leaf, right, during photosynthesis. Okay. So this is the answer to the last question, which is basically the steps of photosynthesis, correct? Or you can say events occurring. Both are the one and the same, right? Steps or events occurring during photosynthesis. Again, I would like to say that these are not the only steps which occur. There are a lot of steps, okay? Like if you take up bio later on, there are at least, like, I remember we had 2 chapters. Okay, we had 2 chapters only to study photosynthesis. So it is not one straight reaction. There are multiple reactions which happen at multiple times together to finally give you your glucose as the end product. Okay, so there are a lot of byproducts being formed, lot of things which happen, right? And then they tell you why chlorophyll is important and things like that, what exactly happens also, right? To do all this also energy is required. So from where the plant is getting energy to perform all this before making food itself, that also is explained, right? So yeah, so for now you need to know 3 basic steps, which is first, light energy is absorbed by chlorophyll. I told you, right? Chlorophyll is required because one particular wavelength of light only is required for performing photosynthesis. The others are not required for us. Same like you take the example of humans, we can see visible light only. We are not able to see radio waves, microwaves, UV rays, things like that. Same for plants. They don't really require the other wavelengths. There's only one fixed wavelength which is required to perform photosynthesis. So chlorophyll will absorb that light. Then that light energy is converted to chemical energy, right? A change in energy, right? Again, little physics happening here. Light energy is changed into chemical energy and splitting of water molecules take place. So water is basically H2O, right? So water will be broken down into HNO. That's what they are trying to say. And then that HNO is turned into carbohydrates. Okay. Here reduction does not mean subtraction. Okay. Reduction is a type of a chemical reaction which you will learn in your chemistry first chapter. This is like you must be learning about displacement, double displacement, right? Like that, oxidation and reductions are also type of chemical reactions which occur where basically hydrogen is being added. Okay, right. So reduction is type of a chemical reaction where CO2 will be converted to carbohydrates, which is basically C6H12O6. This is your carb, right? Sugars are carbohydrates. Okay. So you can write these 3 steps down, very important. The other things not required. Here the question will be asked as it is only. They'll ask you write the steps for photosynthesis as it is. So you just need to write these 3. There is no application, or there's no, twisted and turned question asked here. Direct question. Okay, let me know once you've taken it down, then I'll show you the video.
I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm done.
Okay, everybody's taken it down, na? Good.
Yes, I'm done.
I'll show you the video.
We all enjoy this synthesis, but seem to forget plants are an absolute because of the process of photosynthesis shows that it is firmly held in the soil by the help of roots. These roots absorb water from the soil and through the tiny tubes transport it to the stem and then to the leaves. The stem holds the leaves in such a way that they absorb maximum energy from sunlight. A leaf is a very important part of the plant. Photosynthesis, the ultimate provider of food and oxygen, occurs in the leaf. A leaf consists of a flat, thin lamina, which is joined to the stem by a petiole. The flattened lamina provides large surface area for trapping sunlight. A cross-section of the leaf shows the upper and lower layers of cells, which are flat and irregular.
Yeah, this is important. So see here, now they are showing you the cross section of the leaf, and they'll tell you in detail which is the upper side, which is where chloroplast is present. So pay attention to this. Okay.
Below the upper layer is the layer of tightly packed cells. These cells have specialized organelles called chloroplasts. Chloroplasts contain the pigment chlorophyll, which gives the green color to the leaf. The next layer has loosely arranged cells with large air spaces. The section also shows tubes specific for transporting the absorbed water into the leaves. The lower layer has many pores called stomata. Each stoma is surrounded by 2 guard cells, which regulate opening and closing of the stomata. A leaf absorbs carbon dioxide from the environment through these stomata, which, after passing through air spaces, enter into the chlorophyll-containing cells. Both water and carbon dioxide molecules are finally absorbed by the chloroplast. These chloroplasts also have the capacity for trapping energy from sunlight. And this energy is used to synthesize glucose and oxygen from carbon dioxide and water. These oxygen and glucose molecules diffuse out of the chloroplast. The glucose is transported through other specialized tubes to all parts of the plant, aiding in their growth. The oxygen present in these air spaces diffuses out through the stomata. So, during photosynthesis, oxygen is given as the life-sustaining gaseous component of the atmosphere, while glucose or food is transported to all parts of the plant and used for growth. To summarize,
Right. So basically, I wanted to show you main thing was the cross section of the leaf. And yeah, in addition, we got to see how water moves to the leaves and then how things, how things actually happen inside the leaf, right? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we saw in the video, there is one thing which we had to cover, which is stomata, right? Okay, so one thing you have to be very clear here is the difference between stomata and guard cells. Okay, so there are 2 bean-shaped or kidney bean-shaped cells like this. Okay, and there is a pore here. So this pore basically means an opening. Okay, pore is a fancy word or a technical term for an opening. So this pore here is what is called a stomata. Okay, stomata are not the guard cells or not the bean-shaped cells next to it. Stomata is nothing but the pore. Okay, and these cells, these bean-shaped or kidney bean-shaped cells next to it are the guard cells. Okay, this part you must be crystal clear with. So if possible, yeah, take this down. Take this everything down. Important. This entire slide is important, right? And if possible, if you are able to draw this simple diagram of this, please do that as well. I'll tell you what is required. Only this water and this swollen cell is required. You don't need to label it and you don't need the other things. So if you just made like a, something like this with water entering, this much is enough, right? And for this, make one like this with water moving out, right? Other things are not required, but this is important. Right. Yeah, and you must be clear that stomata is the pore, stoma or stomata. Stoma is usually referred to as a for plural sometimes, right? Stoma and stomata for singular. You can write stomata anywhere, it's fine. They don't go to see that much detail here. But do remember, it is the pore. It's not the bean-shaped cell. Stomata is not a cell. It is a pore. What happens is after some time, no, after 2-3 classes, you get completely confused which is which. Which is why make sure that you note it down. It is the pore. Right. Okay, so what is the importance of stomata is basically it is a site for gaseous exchange. What gaseous exchange happens? O2 is given out and carbon dioxide is taken in. Right? This is the gaseous exchange or the gas transfer which happens. Right? And there is a disadvantage to the plant because of the pore, that whenever the pores open and close, whenever they open, some amount of water is also lost. So to overcome this this disadvantage or this loss, what the plant does is whenever not required, it keeps these pores closed. Okay. Yeah, and then there is guard cells. What are the guard cells? Basically two bean-shaped cells that surround the stoma. Function is they regulate. You can add the word regulate here. Regulate basically means they control the opening and closing of stomata. Right. Yeah. Now for a moment we'll go back to grade 9. Right? Does anybody remember osmosis? What is osmosis?
The
Exchange of
movement of
water.
water through the leaves.
Semi-permeable membrane.
Leaves, no. Yeah, okay. Somebody said semi. Yes, movement of water part was correct. Okay, so okay, it would be movement of water.
Movement of water from a high pressure to a low pressure medium.
Okay, pressure, no. Concentration, right? Movement of water from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration via a semi-permeable membrane. Semi-membrane, semi-permeable. Correct. Yes. So now when you say movement through leaves, you can say this because cells here, the plasma membrane of the cell acts as the semi-permeable membrane. Things we had discussed in the first chapter in grade 9, right? Okay. So now why am I bringing up osmosis is because if you see the diagram here carefully, what is actually happening is osmosis only, right? What is the term called when water enters the cell? Which type of osmosis is it? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Is it endoosmosis or is it exoosmosis? When water enters the cell?
Endo.
Endo, correct. Right, so water enters the cell. This is endosmosis. Water exiting the cell is basically exosmosis. Right, and grade 9 also is to tell you endo means anything which enters is endo. Anything which exits or leaves is ex. Ex is usually referred to as exiting, leaving. Right, okay.
Ma'am, in the definition of osmosis, movement of water from region of high concentration to region of low concentration via, what is that word?
Semi-permeable membrane. Are you not able to see this word? No? Semi it is. Okay. Yeah, so why did I bring up osmosis here is because if you observe this diagram carefully, basically osmosis is what is happening to regulate the opening and closing of the stomata. So when the stoma or stomata needs to be opened, the guard cells take in water from the neighboring cells. They swell up. And osmosis basically, remember, right? O, endo mein O hai means it will swell up. So water is taken in, the guard cells swell up and the pore is open. Whereas when you want to close the pore, the water is given back to the neighboring cells and it will shrink. And the pore will be closed, right? Yeah. Again, not required in very much detail, but you should be aware because this is all is done in grade 9, right? So they'll not expect you to elaborate on which type of osmosis is happening and how is it happening. But this is for your understanding that you should be aware that yeah, when the pore needs to be opened, what is going to be taken in, then the cell will swell up and the pore will be open. When the pore needs to be closed, the water will be given out, right? Okay. Yeah, this diagram is important because they usually ask you to label or to show that how the pore will be opened and closed, how the guard cells regulate opening and closing. So yeah, for that, if you made this simple diagram here, it's fine. Okay. Have you taken this down? Shall we go ahead?
Just a minute.
Yes, yes, I'll wait.
Yes, I'm done.
Done? Others done? Or still writing?
Yes, ma'am.
Done? Okay. Okay, now we have covered autotrophic nutrition, basically organisms which make their own food. Now we need to look at organisms which get their energy from plants, right? Basically all other organisms which were left in our table, right? We need to complete that flow chart, right? So again, like auto means self, hetero means other, right? So basically the organisms which derive their energy from intake and digestion, other sources. Not required, definition not exactly required because they won't ask you to define heterotrophs. This is for your understanding. Basically organisms which get their energy from other autotrophs or other heterotrophs. Okay, some examples are here. Okay, you can name them. Which are the type of animals which get their or which depend on plants for their food? What are they called?
Herbivores.
Herbivores. Yes, excellent. Okay. Then what about animals which depend on other animals for their food?
Carnivores.
Very good. And humans are? Very good. Omnivores. Excellent. Right. So all these also fall under heterotrophs. All three of them are heterotrophs only. Right? Basically, any organism which cannot make its own food is a heterotroph. So you can add everybody under this. You can add fungi, virus, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, everybody under this. Right? Okay. This is just basic information slide. You can take down this. This point is sufficient. Hetero is other and troph is food. That much is sufficient here. The things are not required. Okay. Right, this is required. You can take this down and if possible, you can draw a flow chart as it is. Boxes are not required, but flow chart if you could make, that would be great.
Ma'am, can you 1 minute show that?
Yes, yes, why not? Just 1 second. Yeah, here. Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I was saying, yeah, please take this down. Tables, I mean, the boxes are not required. You can, if you could take down as a flow chart itself, that would be great. Right. Yes. So this is the part which we had, said we would come back to it later. These are the different types under heterotrophic nutrition, right? So you have three major, which is first being saprophytic. Again, you can break this down into sapro and phytic. Okay. Sapro comes from a Greek word which means rotten. Okay. Rotten. It comes from a Greek word which means rotten. So basically, these organisms derive their food from dead and decaying or rotten organisms or organic matter. Depends on whatever. They don't mind if it's an organism or it's a vegetable or it's a whatever it can be. Basically, it has to be rotting or decaying. Examples are mold, yeast, right? Some kind of fungi. Some kinds of yeast, not all kinds of yeast are feast on dead stuff, right? Okay. Then you have parasitic. Parasitic basically comes from the word which means, together, or an organism which is feeding on another organism which is alive, right? Many examples are there for parasitic. For humans, in case of humans, you can take the example of leech, right? It's like a small kind of a worm which looks, okay, I'm not drawing it. It's like basically it looks like a worm, and it's found in forests where there is during rainy seasons when there is huge overgrowth of weeds and grasses there. And yeah, leeches are found there. What they do is they just stick to your skin and they drink your blood. They need animal or human blood to survive, and it's very difficult to get them off your skin once they stick to it, right? It's not impossible, it's just little tedious, that's all. That's why it's a parasite. It won't harm you. Yes, Mike, tell me.
Could you say mosquito is a parasite?
Somebody asked this in the previous class as well. See, in case of mosquito, what happens is that mosquitoes need blood only when they need to lay their eggs. Okay, on the remaining time or the rest of their diet is usually nectar. So I won't really call them parasites because human blood is not their sole food. So they just need it for some time, for certain procedures. So yeah, I wouldn't really classify them under parasites. Okay. Okay, then you have another classic example for parasite would be tapeworms, right? They are the worms found in your intestines. Yeah, usually when we are very small, like infants and toddlers, most of us go through it. We have worms because we're playing in the dirt and soil and everything. Yeah. So yeah, some of us do go through it. Again, it's you.
And these are the different types of heterotrophic nutrition.
And these are the different types of parasites. Examples I was giving.
The saprophytic parasite.
Yes, these are different types of heterotrophic. You could say the subcategories under heterotrophic nutrition. Okay. Yeah. So some kind of worms you can take as example. Lice in your hair, those are also parasites. Ticks in case of cats, dogs, or pets, they are all parasites. So they just cause irritation or discomfort. They don't really kill the organism, kill their host, or they don't really, what should I say? Yeah, they don't cause that much harm for the host to notice that there is something there, like that. Yeah. And you have last is holozoic. Okay, holozoic, if you break it down, it comes from the words holo, which refers to whole, okay, and zoo. Zoo refers to animals. So in bio, you will come across the word zoo quite frequently. Like you will come across zoology. There's something called zoonotic. There is zoo sports. There are a lot of words in zoo, and all of them are only in bio. You're right. You won't find them in any other context. Mainly because zoo refers to animals. So zoology is the study of animals. Zoonotic is an animal virus. Zoo spores are fungal spores, or you could say spores which are released because animals have touched that fungi or things like that. Okay, so basically Holozoic refers to animals which derive their food or which take in whole food and then break it down in their system. That's what Holozoic means. That's the entire procedure or the entire complex definition given here. Basically means, I'll write it here. Okay, animals which take in whole food, which take in whole food and digest it. Or you could say they break it down. Right? These are what Holozoic refers to. So basically, most of the organisms, most of the animals and humans, we all fall under Holozoic. Why? Because we have a complex digestive system in place, which is used to break down food and make it into small molecules which the cells can take up for whatever use they require, right? So most of the animals and humans fall under Holozoic category. Saprophytic, there are limited examples because these are usually for dead and decaying matter, so they'll usually be some kind of fungi only. Not many organisms are saprophytic. Fungi are the best examples of saprophytic. Parasitic again depends. There are different examples in different contexts. There could be there are many fishes also which act as parasites. There's I think one kind of clownfish which just attaches itself to the underside or the belly of one huge fish. I forget. I think clownfish or some other kind of fish. I'll check and tell you. Right, so they live their entire life. So the shark or whatever big fish is this huge, right? So that tiny fish, what it does, it lives here. So whatever this big fish is going to eat, or whatever it the large amount of fishes it takes in, some or the other part it will leave off, right? So this fellow it smartly collects that dropped food and it survives like that. And it is so small that this big fish does not even realize that there's something attached to its belly. Like that there are. So there are many examples of parasites, many. Some are really interesting to note also, that how they can build such parasitic relations like that. Like, interesting. Yeah. And you have Holozoic. Holozoic is most of us, whichever animal has a digestive system in place, all of them fall under Holozoic. Right. Okay, have you taken this down? Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next, we will study about amoeba, nutrition in amoeba, just to give you all an idea that how does it happen in other organisms also. Very brief it is. And then we'll talk about humans. So humans, we have it in detail, how the food moves from the mouth to the esophagus to the stomach to the small intestines to the large intestines, what all juices and gastric glands are there, which are releasing those juices, which acids are there, what is their function, things like that. What happens if something is missing, some acid is not released, what happens in cases of some kinds of diseases, one or two examples. Then after nutrition we'll move on to transportation, like that, right? Okay, yeah. So today's class we'll stop here, then next class we'll do from amoeba, then move on to humans, and yeah, then continue. It's a little bit bigger chapter. We might require maybe total of 3, let's hope 3 classes would be maximum to finish it, right? Okay.
And the next topic we learn about is this, right? How to
Yes. The next thing we will start is, this is the case for amoeba. So we spoke about plants, right? Then there is one example for different organism like amoeba. Then we go on to humans. We have it for humans. And then we will move on to respiration, then transportation and all that. A lot of things to cover. Okay. Right. Okay. For today's class, do you have any question or anything you would like me to repeat or discuss again? You can let me know.
Ma'am, would you be sharing this PPT?
Yes, definitely. Once the chapter is done, I will be sharing it. Not now. Yeah. So once we complete the chapter, I'll share it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Ma'am,
Yes.
what two words are the the word parasitic? What are the two words broken into?
Acha, for parasitic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. Right. Just go back there. Huh. So parasitic may okay, loading. Parasitic basically is broken down into para and citic, where para means they both combine. Yeah. They are both combined together and they mean basically sitting side by side. It is also from a Greek word. And when you say sitting side by side or eating side by side, so basically they the word came into origin, or they got this word by meaning to say that you are sitting at the same table and eating, something like that. From that this word was derived. So two different organisms are sharing the same kind of food, something like that.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have a small doubt.
Yes,
In saprophytic, it doesn't affect the organism. In parasitic, it affects the organism.
Saprophytic, it does not affect the organism because the organism is dead. They are eating dead organisms.
Okay.
Okay. Dead, decaying. Yeah, I think somebody from the previous class had a question that if we are saying dead here, then what happens in Holozoic? Holozoic is also eating dead only, right? So what happens in saprophytic is saprophytic, that's why I specifically said it would be rotten. It has to not be dead, it has to be rotting, which means some amount of decay and fermentation process has to be going on. Only then the fungi will come and eat it or consume it. Whereas in Holozoic, what happens is for majority of the animals also, they have fresh prey. They don't, you will not see animals going after something which has been dead for a couple of days, right? If you see, I mean, carnivores like lion, tigers, etc., they kill fresh prey. Don't go after something which has been dead for days together. Okay, that's the main difference.
For like Holozoic people, like Holozoic creatures, they hunt, while saprophytic eat on the dead, which have already been hunted or died.
Yes, correct, exactly. Yes, which have already been decaying. So here some amount of fermentation has happened. When I say fermentation, which means some amount of, the animal or the whatever organism they are talking, it could be anything. It could be dead decaying leaves also, it could be a huge animal also, it could be just tiny ants also. Anything which is decaying, they feed on it. So some amount of decomposition, which means the organism has been broken down into some simpler compounds. So then these people come take over and they break it down into even more simpler compounds. Okay, anything else? Any other question? No. Okay. How was the class? Was it interesting or did you find it a little bit boring? You can tell me, honestly.
And it was nice and interesting.
Okay. Yeah, my main reason of asking is so that I know that whether I should include more videos or whether, I should change some strategy. For that I'm asking. So you can tell me honestly. I'm not going to yell. I don't yell ever at anybody. Okay. Take it. No worries. I think, yeah, this is my first class with y'all. It will take y'all some time to open up to me, right? So no worries. Yeah, but if any point you feel it is boring or it's getting too much, you can tell me anytime. Okay, I always have videos to show. I'll switch over and show you a couple of videos or play some quiz and get you back. ठीक है. Okay. So yeah, after class you can whatever we did today, you can quickly scan those notes and send it over the WhatsApp group so that I can see that yeah, everything is being taken down correctly. And before the next class, make sure you have revised whatever we did today and then come so that we can quickly proceed ahead. Right? We don't spend time revising whatever we did. Okay. Yeah, that's it from my side. We can end the session then. Bye bye. See you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.